I was sitting in my car, staring at the front door of my house, a strange numbness creeping up my spine. My hands gripped the steering wheel with a force that left my knuckles white. I could feel the evening air, heavy and thick, as though the world was holding its breath, waiting for something. But I wasn't ready. The thing is, I didn't plan on coming home tonight. I had no intention of being here. It wasn't supposed to be like this. But after receiving a text I couldn't ignore, I found myself driving aimlessly for hours, turning back to my house without even realizing it. I had no reason to be suspicious. No clear evidence. Nothing that screamed, "She's cheating." Just a feeling. And sometimes, feelings are louder than facts. I didn't know what was waiting for me inside, but the moment I opened the door, everything seemed to go still. No TV on, no sounds of life, just a thick silence that chilled me to the bone. I called out, "Aaron." No response. I walked in further, each step heavier than the last. The house was too quiet, too empty, and that's when I noticed it. The note. On the kitchen counter, next to the untouched dinner, was a single sheet of paper. My heart began to race as I picked it up. It was a note from her, handwritten in her familiar scrawl, but the words felt alien. "I'm sorry. I never thought it would end like this. Please don't follow me. Please don't look for me." I blinked, reading the words again. The note felt like a slap, but the shock hit harder than I expected. What did it mean? Why was she leaving me a note instead of speaking to me? It didn't make sense. We were fine. Or so I thought. There was no argument, no fight, at least not the kind that would cause this. But it wasn't the note that stopped me cold. It was what was beneath it. A small piece of paper, crumpled, shoved into the corner, with one simple sentence written on it. "He's not who you think he is." I froze. That's when the flood of questions started. Who was she talking about? Who was Aaron with? The first person that came to mind was him. Her colleague, Matt. But why would she leave me this cryptic message? It didn't make sense. They were just coworkers, right? I had no real reason to suspect him, but something in my gut told me that I was wrong. Suddenly, the house didn't feel like my own. Everything seemed off. I stood in the kitchen for a moment, the weight of the situation bearing down on me, my heart pounding with 1,000 thoughts and questions. But it wasn't until I picked up the phone that I realized what had happened. I stared at her phone, her unlocked phone. A message flashed across the screen, catching my attention before I even had a chance to process it. It was from Matt. "Can't wait to see you later. I miss you." The breath I was holding escaped in one sharp exhale. This wasn't just some work relationship. This wasn't just a friendship. The pieces were falling into place, one painful revelation at a time. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling slightly as I scrolled through the conversation. Each message was worse than the last, but it was the last one that made my heart stop. "I can't believe we're doing this, but I can't resist you. I'll take care of him soon. I promise." My vision blurred. I could barely comprehend the words, but I knew they were meant for me. This wasn't some sick joke. This wasn't something I could pretend wasn't happening. She had been seeing him behind my back. And the worst part? She planned to end it all. The him in the text wasn't some distant person. It was me. I didn't know what I was supposed to do now. Part of me wanted to scream, to yell at her, to confront her about everything. But the other part of me just felt numb. Was this really happening? Had she really been living a lie all this time? I put the phone down on the counter and stepped back. The house was eerily quiet again, almost as if everything had frozen in time. There was a dull ringing in my ears, but I couldn't think clearly enough to pinpoint why. I needed answers. But before I could make any decisions, the front door creaked open. And there she was, Erin. She stood in the doorway, her eyes wide with surprise, as though she didn't expect me to be here, as though she had no idea what I had just discovered. The moment she saw me, her face changed. The guilt was written all over her, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like her husband. I felt like an outsider, a stranger in my own life. Graham, her voice trembled. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The silence between us spoke louder than any words could. I didn't need her to explain. I already knew everything. And what I knew was more than I could ever forget. She stood there for a moment, almost as if frozen, her hand still on the doorknob. I could feel her eyes on me, but I didn't look back. The weight of what I had just read, what I had just discovered, was too heavy for me to carry in that moment. I was drowning in a sea of emotions, and the only thing keeping me afloat was the quiet rage that simmered beneath the surface. Graham, she repeated, but this time, her voice was softer, almost pleading. I finally met her gaze, but instead of anger or accusation, I felt emptiness. I need you to explain, Aaron, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, yet it felt like I had screamed it at her. I couldn't seem to wrap my head around it. Why did you do this? She stepped into the living room, the door creaking as it shut behind her. Her face was pale, and for a split second, I could almost feel a hint of guilt in her expression, but it was quickly masked by something else. Fear, maybe. She looked like a person who had just been caught in a lie too big to cover up. I never meant for it to get this far, she said, her voice quivering slightly, though she tried to keep it steady. I couldn't help the sarcastic laugh that escaped me. Oh, really? Because it looks like it's pretty far now. You planned this, didn't you? The notes, the messages, everything. This wasn't some accident. I never wanted to hurt you, she replied, her hands trembling as she tugged at her sleeves. I just didn't know how to leave. That was the moment that shook me the most. It wasn't the affair. It wasn't the fact that she'd been seeing someone behind my back for months. It wasn't even the fact that she had written me a note and tried to cover it up. It was that sentence. I didn't know how to leave. It was the most revealing thing she could have said. It was the moment I realized that this wasn't just about her wanting someone else. This was about her being too cowardly to face me, to confront me with the truth. Instead, she had taken the easy way out, hiding behind lies, behind secret messages, behind the empty promises of a life that wasn't real. Who is he? I asked, my voice tight. I wasn't even sure why I asked. I knew the answer. Matt. The guy she'd worked with for years, the one who was always so friendly with her. The one she said didn't mean anything, but here we were, with his name flashing on her phone screen. Erin's eyes shifted, avoiding mine, and I saw the truth there. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. She was too tired to lie. You know who he is, she murmured. It's Matt. He made me feel things I haven't felt in a long time. I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my composure. The anger was rising again, threatening to consume me, but I fought it back. What did he offer you that I couldn't? I spat, the words coming out before I could stop them. What was it that made you turn your back on everything we built? She took a deep breath, as if gathering the strength to answer, but she wasn't looking at me anymore. Her gaze drifted down, focusing on the floor. I don't know. Maybe it was the excitement. Maybe I wanted something new, something different. You wanted something different, I repeated slowly, the words tasting like poison in my mouth. So you decided that lying to me, betraying me, was the answer? That's how you fixed it? I never meant for it to go this far, she said again, almost in a whisper, but there was no apology in her voice. No remorse. Just excuses. I thought I could stop it, but I couldn't. I felt like I was suffocating, trapped in a room full of lies. There was no real answer coming from her. She wasn't owning up to what she'd done. She wasn't taking responsibility for the destruction she had caused. Instead, she was trying to justify her actions with words that didn't mean anything. They were empty. So that's it. I asked, my voice dangerously calm. You just wanted out? You couldn't even talk to me about it? You had to go behind my back, and then what? You thought you could just walk away from everything, and it would be fine? She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. No, I'm done listening. You don't get to just throw this away like it doesn't matter. This wasn't some mistake, Aaron. This was deliberate. You made a choice, and now I'm left with the consequences of that choice. I turned away from her then, not wanting to look at her anymore. The weight of everything felt like it was crushing me. I could feel my hands shaking as I reached for my jacket. My thoughts were running 1,000,000 miles a minute. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about something deeper, about trust, about respect, about a partnership that had been destroyed without a second thought. Where are you going? She asked, her voice small, but there was something pleading in it, something that made me stop. I don't know, I replied, my voice hardening. But it's not here. You've already made it clear where you stand. Now, it's my turn to figure out where I stand. And with that, I walked out. No words left unsaid, no apologies given, no chance for reconciliation. Because sometimes, when you've been betrayed, there's no going back. And there was nothing left for me to do but leave. I didn't go far that night. I ended up at the local diner, the one I used to go to when I was younger, when life felt simpler. I sat there in the corner booth, a coffee cup in front of me that I hadn't touched. The low hum of chatter surrounded me, but my mind was a million miles away. The diner was familiar, comforting even, but nothing felt normal anymore. Nothing felt right. I couldn't stop thinking about Erin, the betrayal, the lies. The image of her standing in front of me, claiming she didn't know how to leave, haunted me. I wanted answers, but every time I tried to make sense of it, the pieces didn't fit together. Why had she let it get this far? Why hadn't she told me about Matt earlier, when things first started shifting? Was I really that blind? Or had she been playing me for much longer than I knew? The coffee in front of me grew cold, and still, I sat there, replaying every moment from that evening. My phone buzzed, and I glanced at it, half expecting to see another message from Erin. But it wasn't her. It was a number I didn't recognize. My heart skipped a beat as I read the message. "Graham, we need to talk. I don't know how to explain this, but I think you should know. It's about Erin." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. I didn't know who this person was, but the message sounded urgent, like someone who had knowledge of something I didn't yet understand. My fingers hovered over the phone. Should I reply? Was this someone who was just trying to stir things up? Or was it someone who had information I needed to hear? I didn't hesitate long. I typed back, my pulse quickening with every word I wrote. "Who is this? What do you know about Erin?" The reply came almost immediately. "It's Matt. We need to meet. It's important. Trust me." I wasn't sure what to think. Matt, her lover, the one who had stolen her heart, the one who had manipulated her into believing he was the one she needed, the guy who had been in my life all along, pretending to be just a coworker. I had so many questions, but I didn't trust him. What was his angle? Was he trying to make me feel better about this mess? Or was there something more to this story that I hadn't yet uncovered? Still, curiosity gnawed at me. Part of me wanted to confront him, to finally put all the pieces together. But another part of me wanted to walk away from it all, to never have to face Erin or Matt again. I wanted to forget the entire mess, to pretend none of this had ever happened. But that wasn't who I was. I wasn't going to let this destroy me without knowing the truth. I texted back. "Where?" Matt's reply was simple. The location, a dingy motel on the edge of town. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my coat and left the diner without a second thought. As I drove, I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Was I really about to meet with this man? The man who had taken everything from me? The man who had played a part in the destruction of my marriage? I had no idea what I was walking into, but I had to know the truth. The motel was small, tucked away behind a gas station. It looked like the kind of place people came to when they had something to hide, a place where secrets were exchanged in the shadows. I parked the car, my heart thundering in my chest. I stared at the neon sign flickering in the distance. I wasn't sure if I was more angry, confused, or terrified. I walked into the lobby and approached the desk. The clerk barely looked up as I asked for the room number. "Room 8. He mumbled, barely acknowledging me as he handed me the key. I walked down the narrow hall, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the stillness. When I reached the door, I paused. What was I expecting? What kind of conversation was about to unfold behind that door? Part of me wanted to turn around, to leave it all behind. But I couldn't. Not now. I knocked 3 times. The door creaked open, and there he was. Matt. He was wearing a worn-out jacket, his hair unkempt, and his face was twisted with guilt. Or maybe it was something else, something I couldn't place. "Graham," he said, his voice heavy with something I couldn't decipher. I didn't say anything. I just walked past him into the room, my fists clenched at my sides. I was ready for whatever was coming, though I wasn't sure I would ever be prepared for the truth. "Sit." He gestured to the worn-out couch by the window. He didn't look like a man who had been victorious in his affair. He looked defeated, broken in some way. I didn't sit. Instead, I stood there, glaring at him. "What the hell do you want from me?" I demanded. He ran a hand through his hair, his eyes darting away. "I need to explain. I can't just leave this on your doorstep and walk away. Erin, she's not who you think she is." I shook my head, my frustration growing. "I already know who she is. She's the woman who betrayed me. The woman who destroyed everything." Matt didn't argue. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low, almost like he was ashamed. "I really am. But you need to understand something. It's not just about her and me. It's about what she's been running from for years. It's about her past, and yours." I froze. "What are you talking about?" He took a deep breath, as though he was preparing to say something that would change everything. I'm not the only one she's been running from, Graham. And I'm not the only one who has been lying to you. I felt a cold chill run through my body. This wasn't just about Aaron anymore. This was about something bigger, something that neither of us was prepared for. I stood there in the dim light of the motel room, trying to process what Matt had just said. Not the only one she's been running from? What the hell does that mean? I could barely breathe, the weight of his words pressing down on me like a vice. He looked away, as if he couldn't bear to face me, but I wasn't about to let him off the hook that easily. My anger flared, and I took a step closer. What are you hiding? Why are you making this sound like some big secret? Matt hesitated, his fingers twitching at his sides. You need to listen, he said, his voice quieter now. This isn't just about Aaron and me. It's about the man you don't know. The one she's been scared of her whole life. I frowned. What the hell are you talking about? He sighed, like he was trying to find the right words. He was shaking slightly, and for the first time, I saw a glimpse of fear in his eyes. It was almost like he was afraid of what he was about to say, and that scared me more than anything. It's about her father. I took a step back, the floor beneath me feeling like it was shifting. Her father? I repeated slowly. What does her father have to do with any of this? Everything, Matt said, his voice low and almost apologetic. Aaron's dad isn't who you think he is. He's not just some distant figure from her past. He's been controlling her life for years. Everything she does, every choice she makes, it's all because of him. I stood there in shock. This was not the direction I had expected this conversation to go. Aaron had always mentioned her father, but never in any significant way. She had never once alluded to anything dark, anything dangerous. You're telling me her dad is behind all of this? I asked, my voice rising. That he's the reason she cheated on me? Matt nodded, his gaze fixed on the floor. Yes, but it's not that simple. She's been running from him for years. She's tried to break free from his control, but every time she thinks she's free, he pulls her back. He manipulates her, uses her weaknesses against her. And every time, she falls back into his web. I felt a sick feeling in my stomach, like someone had just turned the world upside down. But why didn't she tell me? I asked, my voice cracking. Why didn't she ever mention any of this to me? All I got was excuses. All I got was lies. Matt swallowed hard, then looked me in the eye for the first time. Because she's terrified. Erin's not the person you think she is. She's been conditioned to think that she can't trust anyone, that the world will betray her. And her father's always been there, controlling her, manipulating her choices. She thought she was protecting you by keeping it all hidden. The room felt colder, like someone had flipped a switch. The truth, the real truth, was more than I could handle in that moment. So, you're telling me, this is all her father's fault? I said, barely believing it. She's not responsible for any of it? Matt shook his head. No, Graham, I'm not saying she's blameless. But you need to understand. She's been stuck in this cycle her entire life. Every time she tries to get out, he pulls her back in. And it's not just about you and her. It's about the grip he has on her. And it's been there from the start. I stood there, processing his words. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my life, was slipping away. Erin wasn't just some woman who cheated on me. She was someone caught in a web of control, a web that I had no idea existed. My heart ached for her, but at the same time, my anger burned hotter than ever. How could she have kept all of this from me? How could she have let me live this lie for so long? Why are you telling me all this? I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of confusion and rage. Why now? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Matt's eyes flicked toward the window, and for a moment, he looked like he was battling with himself. Because I couldn't watch her destroy herself anymore, he said, his voice barely audible. I thought I could fix things. I thought I could be the one to help her, but I realized I was just another part of the problem. I'm not proud of what happened between me and Erin. But I need you to understand that there's so much more to this than you realize. And if you want any chance of fixing things, you need to know the truth about her past. I stood in stunned silence, the weight of his words crushing me. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to make everything make sense. But nothing made sense anymore. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been living a life full of secrets, of pain, of manipulation. And I had been blind to it all. I don't know if I can forgive her for this. I whispered, the words more to myself than to Matt. I don't know if I can ever trust her again. Matt didn't respond right away. He just looked at me with sad eyes, like he understood exactly how I felt. But then, finally, he spoke. I don't know if you can either, but I think she's ready to tell you everything. She's terrified, Graham. She doesn't know how to fix this, but she wants to. I wasn't sure what to believe anymore. My whole world had been shattered, and I was left standing in the wreckage. But one thing was certain. I needed to confront Erin. I needed to hear her side of the story, to hear what she had to say for herself. Because, no matter how twisted everything had become, I couldn't just walk away without knowing the truth. And that truth? It was waiting for me back at home. I couldn't just go back to the house, not yet. I needed time. Time to figure out everything I had just heard, everything I had just learned. Matt's words kept ringing in my head, over and over again. Erin had been trapped in her father's web for years, and I had no idea. She had kept this from me, from the very person who had promised to be there through thick and thin. I had trusted her completely, but now that trust felt like a distant memory. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the streetlights that blurred past as I drove. The world outside seemed so ordinary, so unaware of the storm brewing in my heart. It felt like I was the only one who had just discovered the truth, the only one who understood the weight of everything. Erin's betrayal had been one thing, but hearing about her father, hearing how deep the manipulation ran, that was something entirely different. I couldn't just walk into my house and pretend everything was fine. I couldn't just pick up where we left off. It wasn't that simple anymore. I parked outside a small park, and for the first time, I felt the need to do something I hadn't done in years. I needed to think. I stepped out of the car, letting the cool night air hit my face. The quiet of the park settled over me, and I leaned against the rusted fence, looking out at the empty swings swaying gently in the breeze. It was the kind of silence that felt too loud, like it was filled with everything that had been left unsaid. I thought about Erin, about the woman I had married. She wasn't just the person I thought I knew, the person I had spent years with. No, she was someone different now. She was someone who had been hiding from me, someone who had kept parts of herself locked away, afraid to confront them. But what about me? What did that make me? Was I just a fool, blind to everything that had been happening right under my nose? How could I have missed it? How could I have been so stupid? I pulled out my phone, my hand still shaking. I knew I needed to call her, needed to face this head on. But part of me was terrified of what she might say. What if she tried to explain it away? What if she blamed it all on her father, on Matt, on anything but herself? I wasn't sure I could take that. I didn't know if I could handle another lie, another excuse. The phone buzzed in my hand. I almost dropped it from the sudden shock, but I quickly glanced at the screen. It was Erin. I stared at the name for a long moment, unable to move, unable to breathe. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't prepared for this. The message was short, but the words hit me harder than anything else could have. I'm sorry, Graham. I need you to understand. I'm going to tell you everything. Please, just let me explain. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to shout at her, to demand she tell me everything right now. But another part of me wanted to hear her out, to give her a chance to explain herself, to hear the truth from her lips. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, torn between the anger that consumed me and the desire to understand. Slowly, I typed back. When? When can I hear the truth? I need to know everything. The reply came quickly. I'm waiting for you at home. Please, Graham. We need to talk. I didn't hesitate this time. I started the car, the engine growling to life, and headed back toward the house. My thoughts raced, my emotions tangled, but one thing was clear. I couldn't avoid this any longer. I had to face her. As I drove back, the memories hit me. The good ones. The bad ones. The way Erin's laughter used to fill the house. The way we used to make plans together, dream about the future. I thought we had it all. I thought I knew her. But now, everything felt like a lie. I pulled up to the house and parked. The lights inside were dim, but I knew she was there, waiting. For a moment, I just sat in the car, staring at the front door. It felt like a lifetime ago that I had walked through that door and into what I thought was my life with Erin. Everything had changed, but I didn't know how much more I could take. I didn't know if I could forgive her. I didn't know if there was even a chance for us anymore. But I couldn't leave without hearing her side. I couldn't walk away without giving her the opportunity to explain. So, I took a deep breath and stepped out of the car, heading toward the door. When I walked in, Erin was sitting on the couch, her head bowed. She didn't look up as I entered. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. I'm here, I said, my voice hoarse. She looked up at me then, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Graham," she whispered. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I stood there, frozen, as she stood and walked slowly toward me. "I need to explain everything," she continued, her voice trembling. "I've kept so many secrets from you, but I'm ready to tell you the truth. All of it." I felt a wave of uncertainty wash over me. The woman I had loved was standing before me, but I wasn't sure who she was anymore. Would this explanation be enough to heal the broken pieces of us? Or would it be just another layer of deceit that would tear us further apart? There was only one way to find out. "Go ahead," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Tell me everything." Erin took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she sat back down on the couch. For a moment, I could see the guilt in her eyes, but also something else, fear. It was the kind of fear that made me wonder just how much she had been holding back, just how much of herself she had buried beneath layers of lies. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out at first. It was as if she was struggling with what she was about to say, like the weight of the truth was suffocating her. "Graham," she finally whispered, her voice breaking. "I never meant for any of this. I didn't want to hurt you, but I've been living a lie for so long, I didn't know how to get out. I thought I could keep it hidden, that maybe it would all just go away." I stood there, watching her, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it, the moment of truth. Everything I had been waiting for, all the answers I had desperately needed, were about to be revealed. I had no idea what she was about to say, but something in the pit of my stomach told me that nothing would ever be the same again. Erin wiped her eyes and continued. "You know about Matt, right?" I nodded, the name feeling like a dagger in my chest. I never meant to fall for him. I didn't plan for it. But he was different. He made me feel seen, Graham. He made me feel like I mattered. And with you, I don't know, it felt like we were just going through the motions. I thought I loved you, I really did. But there was this part of me that felt empty. I didn't interrupt her, even though the words she was saying cut deeper than anything I had ever felt. She was admitting to everything. She wasn't denying it. She wasn't trying to make excuses anymore. But the more she spoke, the more the pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. "I thought I could control it, you know?" Erin's voice cracked, her hands clutching the sides of the couch as if she needed something to ground her. "I thought I could just have a little fun with Matt, that it would stay a secret. But it didn't. It got out of hand. And I kept thinking about you, Graham, and how I was ruining everything we had, but I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to get out of it." I felt sick. I wanted to yell at her, to scream at her for the betrayal, for everything she had done. But as she spoke, I couldn't ignore the feeling that there was more to this story, something deeper, something I hadn't been told. "I was scared," Erin whispered, her voice barely audible now. "I was scared of what you would think. I was scared that if I told you, you would leave me, and I couldn't bear that. But what's worse is that I've been hiding from something even bigger, something you don't know about, something I should have told you from the very beginning." My stomach twisted, a sense of dread building in me as I took a step closer. "What are you talking about, Erin?" I demanded. "What else have you been hiding?" She looked up at me, her face pale, her eyes filled with something that wasn't guilt, but pure fear. "It's not just Matt," she said, her voice trembling. "It's my father, Graham. He's been controlling everything, including me. All these years, he's been manipulating me, making me feel like I could never escape him. I've been trapped in his grip for as long as I can remember. And every time I tried to break free, he pulled me back in, with lies, with promises, with manipulation." I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Her father? What did he have to do with any of this? I couldn't process it. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of what she was saying. "Erin, what are you telling me? How does he fit into all of this?" Her face crumpled, and she let out a shaky breath, wiping away a tear that slid down her cheek. "He's the reason I stayed with Matt for so long. He's the reason I couldn't leave. My father, he's the one who pushed me into a relationship with Matt. He knew what Matt could offer me, what Matt could do to get me to trust him, to get me to believe in him. And that's how he kept me under control, Graham. He knew exactly what strings to pull. He knew exactly how to make me believe that I couldn't survive without him or without the life he had planned for me." I was stunned. This was something I hadn't expected, something I hadn't seen coming. How could her father have been the mastermind behind this all? It didn't make sense. "So, Matt was just a pawn in your father's game? Is that what you're telling me?" My voice was shaking now, as I tried to process the horror of it all. Erin nodded slowly, her eyes filled with the weight of years of pain and betrayal. Yes, yes, Graham. But it wasn't just that. My father has always controlled everything in my life. My career, my friends, my relationships. He made sure I stayed in line, made sure I never strayed too far from what he wanted for me. And when I tried to break free, when I tried to be with you, he sabotaged it. He made sure I felt like I couldn't trust myself, that I couldn't trust anyone. The room felt suffocating, the weight of everything she was saying pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. So, all this time, it wasn't just you, Erin. It was him. You've been living in his shadow, doing what he wanted you to do, even when you didn't want to. Erin let out a shaky breath and nodded. I tried to fight him, I really did. But he's powerful, Graham. He made me feel like I was nothing without him, like I would be lost without his control. And when I met Matt, when he made me feel something I hadn't felt in years, I thought it was my chance to escape. But I was wrong. I only made things worse. I didn't know what to say. I felt betrayed, confused, and helpless. How could I have missed this? How could I have been so blind? But Erin wasn't just a victim here. She had been living in this twisted web of lies for years, and I had been a part of it, unknowingly. My heart was heavy with the realization that everything I thought I knew was a lie. I don't know what to do with this, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. How do we move forward from here, Erin? How do we fix this? Erin shook her head slowly. I don't know either, Graham. I don't know if we can fix it. But I want to try. I want to make things right, if you'll let me. I know I've hurt you more than you can imagine. But please, I need you to understand. I didn't want any of this. I stood there, speechless, trying to process everything. I didn't know if I could forgive her. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. But one thing was clear, everything had changed. The woman I thought I knew, the life we had built, was shattered. The truth was out there, raw and ugly. But it was the first step. And maybe, just maybe, it was a step towards something that could begin to heal. I sat down beside Erin, the weight of her words still sinking in. The silence that followed felt heavy, like the air was thick with the tension of everything that had been left unsaid. I could hear the distant hum of the street outside, the soft rustle of the wind through the trees, but inside, everything was still. Too still. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I couldn't seem to catch my breath. So what now? I asked, my voice rough. I was done asking questions, done trying to piece everything together in my mind. I needed to hear it all, the whole truth, before I could even begin to figure out what to do next. Erin turned to me, her eyes swollen from crying. But there was a determination in them now. I don't know, Graham. I don't know if there's even a chance for us anymore. But I'm done hiding. I'm done letting my father control my life. This mess with Matt, with everything. It's my fault. I've been too afraid to face it, to face you. But I need you to understand that I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen. I nodded, but I wasn't sure I believed her. She was speaking with so much emotion, so much honesty. But how could I trust her now? After everything? The lies, the secrecy, the affair. It was like I didn't even know her anymore. But I also couldn't ignore the pain in her voice. I couldn't just turn my back on her completely, not yet. Not without hearing everything she had to say. You're right, I said slowly, my words coming out harder than I intended. You've been hiding. You've been living a life full of secrets, and I've been here, believing every word you told me. I don't know what to think. How do I know you're telling me the truth now? How do I know this isn't just another lie, another excuse? She looked down at her hands, as if the weight of her own guilt was too much for her to carry. I don't expect you to believe me, Graham. I know I've lost your trust, and I don't know if I can ever get it back. But I need you to understand, this isn't just about me and Matt. This is about my entire life being controlled by someone who's always been in the background, pulling the strings. And I let it happen. I let him control me for so long, and I never told you. I felt the anger welling up again, the frustration bubbling beneath the surface. But why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice rising. Why didn't you come to me sooner? We were supposed to be a team, Erin. We were supposed to be partners in this. But you kept this all from me. You let him tear us apart. And for what? For a fling with Matt? She flinched at the mention of Matt's name, but her eyes stayed locked on mine. It wasn't just a fling, she said quietly, the sadness in her voice undeniable. Matt made me feel something. I wasn't looking for it, but I found it. And I thought maybe that's what I needed to escape everything else. I thought maybe it would make me feel alive again. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. I didn't know how to respond. The words were there, but they didn't feel right. She was apologizing, but it felt hollow. Everything she had done, everything she had put me through, it couldn't just be erased with a few words. And yet, there was a part of me that wanted to believe her, to believe that she wasn't just some stranger who had betrayed me. That maybe, just maybe, this wasn't all for nothing. I looked at her, trying to read the emotion on her face. "And your father?" I asked, the question weighing heavily in the air. "How does he fit into all of this? What kind of hold does he have over you that you would let him control every part of your life?" Erin closed her eyes, like she was bracing for the hardest part. "He's not just my father, Graham," she said softly. "He's a manipulator. He's been in control of everything in my life since I was a child. I've always been afraid of him, of what he could do if I defied him. And that fear, it's what kept me trapped. I thought I could break free, but every time I tried, he found a way to bring me back. He made me feel like I was nothing without him, like I could never survive without his approval. And when I met Matt, it felt like I could finally escape, like I could finally feel free. But I didn't. I just made everything worse." The pain in her voice was palpable, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But then, a thought hit me like a slap in the face. "So what now, Erin? What's the plan? You want me to believe that after everything, you're just going to walk away from him? That everything's going to magically get better?" Her eyes filled with tears again, and she shook her head slowly. "I don't know if I can walk away from him, Graham. I don't know if I can ever truly break free from the hold he has over me. But I want to try. I want to start over. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to keep hurting you, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to make things right." The weight of her words hung in the air, and I was left speechless. I didn't know if I could forgive her. I didn't know if I could ever see her the same way again. But as she sat there, vulnerable and broken in front of me, something shifted. There was still a part of me that wanted to believe in her, that wanted to believe in us. I stood up, my mind racing with 1,000 different thoughts, 1,000 different possibilities. "I don't know if we can fix this, Erin. I don't know if we'll ever get back to what we were. But I can't make that decision right now. Not tonight." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand," she whispered. "I just need you to know that I'm sorry. And I'll do whatever it takes to make it right, if you'll let me." I didn't say anything. Instead, I walked out of the room, leaving her behind, wondering if there was any chance of rebuilding what had been broken. I didn't know if I could forgive her, if I could ever trust her again. But one thing was certain, this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something that I wasn't sure I was ready for. The night passed in a haze, the weight of everything I had just learned still hanging over me like a storm cloud I couldn't escape. I didn't sleep much. My mind kept racing, replaying Erin's words, her confession, and the truth about everything she'd been hiding. It felt like I had been hit by a freight train, blindsided by the betrayal, the secrets, and the years of lies that had been kept from me. But there was something else, something I hadn't fully realized until that moment. Despite everything that had happened, despite the pain, there was still a part of me that wanted to fight for this, for Erin, for us. I didn't know what the future held, but I wasn't ready to give up just yet. The next morning, I woke up early, the quiet of the house pressing in on me. Erin was still in the living room when I walked downstairs. She was sitting on the couch, her face buried in her hands, and for a second, I almost regretted leaving her alone last night. She looked so small, so lost. The woman I had known seemed like a stranger now, but I could still see the remnants of the person I had loved in her. I sat down next to her, and she looked up at me, her eyes red from crying. There was no need for words. We both knew the weight of the situation. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my thoughts. "I don't know where we go from here," I said, my voice low but steady. "I don't know if I can trust you again, Erin. I don't know if I can ever forget what you've done. But what I do know is that I can't make any decisions in this moment. I need time." She nodded slowly, as if she had been expecting this answer, and her lips trembled as she spoke. "I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't expect anything from you except the chance to show you that I want to change, that I want to be better, for you, for us." For the first time in days, I let myself look at her, really look at her. She wasn't the perfect woman I had once thought she was, and I wasn't the perfect man either. But in that moment, I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. Hope. A glimmer of the woman I had fallen in love with. The one who wanted to do better, who wanted to make things right. And maybe that was the start of something. Maybe that was the spark I needed to believe that things could change. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, I said, my voice softer now. But I'm willing to try. We both need to do the hard work. We need to face the truth, all of it, and figure out what comes next. Erin reached out, her hand trembling slightly as she touched mine. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving me this chance. I didn't know what the future would bring. I didn't know if we would ever get back to the way things were. But in that moment, I realized that maybe there was a way forward if we both fought for it. If we both were willing to be honest with each other, to rebuild what had been shattered. It wasn't going to be perfect. It wasn't going to be easy. But we had time. And sometimes, that was all you needed. The time to heal, to rebuild, to trust again. So, as I sat there, holding her hand, I didn't see the end. I saw the beginning of something new. A new chapter, one where we would face the truth together and figure out how to move forward, step by step. And maybe, just maybe, we would find our way back to each other. That was the hope, the only hope I had left. And with that hope, we walked into the future, uncertain but together. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.